الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد عليه الصلاة والسلام وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار أما بعد. So we continue our discussion about the Dajjal because it is the biggest fitna that Allah has created since the time of Adam until the day of judgment. We left off, we said that when the Dajjal is going to come and he's going to camp outside, just outside the boundaries of Medina, because he's not allowed to enter Medina, because the Prophet ﷺ did say that there are angels at the entrances of the Medina with their swords being ready to protect it from the entrance of the Dajjal. So when he's gonna camp just outside Medina in a valley called Marr Qanah, the Prophet ﷺ said that the Dajjal will come to this pond in Marr Qanah, a valley in Medina, and most of those who go out to him from Medina will be women. So it's the majority of the people that will go out from Medina to meet the Dajjal are women, because women are easily swayed by the callers to evil, because they are emotional and they follow emotions more than being rational. And also there are going to be the hypocrites who will come out of Medina to go join the Dajjal. The Prophet ﷺ said, until a man in the Medina will come to his mother-in-law, to his mother and to his daughter and to his sister and to his aunt, and he will tie them up strongly. So like with a rope, tying them up, literally, for fear that they will go out to the Dajjal and answer his call and lose in this world and the hereafter. The fitna of the Dajjal will be the greatest fitna from the time Allah created Adam alayhi salam until the hour begins. This will be because of the mighty miracles that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give him, which will dazzle people's minds and amaze them. It was reported that the Dajjal will have a paradise with him and a hell with him. So people will be looking at things that Dajjal has. One of them is a paradise and another one is a hell with him. But the Prophet ﷺ did tell us that what people actually see with their eyes as being a paradise is actually going to be hell. And what people see as hell is actually paradise. And every time I remember this, I always mention the way or the life of people in the Western world. The Western world is mesmerizing, it's so beautiful, it's shiny on the outside. For people that look at it from the outside, they see that it's paradise on earth. But in reality, once you live in those societies, you will live in fear, you will live in oppression, you will live in injustice, you will live in so much evil that you never could imagine in your own life, and you will know that you are living in hell. So, as I said and I stress, that living in the West is like living in hell in reality. It looks like you're living in paradise, you have ease of life, but in reality when you are there, then you do feel that you are trapped and that you are living in hell. Similarly, the way the Muslim world is today, people that live in it, they think that they're living in hell, but compared to what they could experience in the Western world, they are living in paradise. The smallest thing or smallest example we can give to prove this point is that at least in the Muslim world, no one kills you because you are a Muslim. So no one is going to attack you in the street because you look like a Muslim, because you're dressed like a Muslim. In the Western world, especially with everything happening today in the world, with these killings, with this hatred, with the politicians calling for this hatred as a means for them to reach political steps and to get votes, they are demonizing the Muslims and condoning the violence that their followers are committing against the Muslims, and they try to play it down, saying that this is an isolated act of violence by a deranged person. So they don't say that this guy is a terrorist. They don't say that this guy is a racist. They say this is just a normal parking spot dispute, like what happened to the 3 people that were killed in North Carolina by their neighbor. It was a husband and wife, young ones, medical students, and the wife's sister. They were killed by a neighbor, and then all of a sudden they played it down. They said just a parking dispute. So the point is that people may think that living in Muslim world is hell, but actually it is heaven compared to what one would experience in the Western world. Because a Muslim, what's the Muslim's capital in this world, in his existence? What's the capital? Capital that the Muslim should not lose in this existence is religion. Living in the West, you are gambling with your capital. The proof is that look at how many millions of Muslims have joined the disbelievers. As the Prophet ﷺ said, this is one of the signs of the hours. The hour shall not come until tribes from my ummah, tribes from the Muslims, will join the disbelievers. Look how many millions of Muslims have joined the disbelievers for the past 50 years or 70 years, and you ask yourself, where are their children? Where are their children? We could say safely that 95% of them were lost. 95% of them lost their identity, lost their religion, and they themselves joined the disbelievers. They don't identify themselves with the Muslims. They don't identify themselves with the Muslim lands. They identify themselves with the Western culture, Western religion. And even if they still claim to be Muslims, they are practicing Islam according to Western sanctioned type of Islam. So here, back to the Dajjal. The Dajjal would have a paradise and a hell with him. But the Prophet ﷺ said that the paradise that people see as a paradise is actually in reality hell. And what people see as hell will actually be as paradise. The Prophet ﷺ continues and says, he will have rivers of water and mountains of bread. Rivers of water and mountains of bread. Because before his appearance, there's going to be 7 years of drought. People will be hungry. There'll be famine. So people will see that if they want to eat, they need to follow the disbeliever, the Dajjal. Similarly today, many of the Muslim leaders and many of the Muslim society members, they follow disbelievers because they want to eat. Because of food, because of worldly thing. So they sell their religion for a miserable, small piece of bread for them to survive. So the Dajjal will have rivers of water and mountains of bread. He will command the sky to send down rain, because he said there's going to be drought. And it will rain. And he will command the earth to bring forth vegetation, and it will do so. So the Bedouins, once they see this, they're going to say, this is our Lord. We don't really care. All we want is to have food and water for us and for animals. And they'll follow him. The treasures of the earth will follow him. And he will travel rapidly throughout the earth, as the Prophet ﷺ said, like the clouds driven by the wind. That means very fast. And he will do other extraordinary feats. It's narrated in another hadith that by the Prophet ﷺ, that the Dajjal will come to one and will ask him, don't you know that only Allah brings the dead back to life? A person will say yes. He'll tell him, what if I bring back your parents to life? Will you believe that I am your Lord? He will say yes. So the Dajjal will summon the shayateen that were with the dead parents of that person. Because as we know, each one of us has qurana, qareen, a steady companion from the jinn that's ordering us to the evil things. So, and after a human being dies, these qurana don't necessarily die with them, because jinn, they live much longer than mankind. So the Dajjal will call these shayateen, these qareen that were with the parents of the deceased person, and they will be made to look like the parents of this person, and they will tell him, oh my son, this is your true Lord, do follow him. And then they will mention something to this person that only this person and his parents knew about, so that he can believe that these are actually his parents. But because we said that this qareen, this companion from the jinn, is always with us, whatever we know, this qareen from the jinn knows. So he's going to bring back some old memory that this person will recognize as it being between him and his parents. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ said that the Dajjal will be one-eyed. One-eyed. That means they're going to have one eye that's functioning. Blind in his left eye, and he will have thick hair. We said before that his right eye is the one that's totally blind. The left eye has some defect, but he can still see from it. But in Arabic we say that mamsuh, that means it's like erased. His eye is erased, not completely. He can still see with the left eye, but it has some thick skin and has some defects on it. The Prophet ﷺ continues, as narrated in Sahih Muslim, that he will have a paradise and a hell with him. But his paradise will be a hell, and his hell will be a paradise. Muslim also narrated that Hudayfa bin Yaman radiallahu anhu said, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, I know that Dajjal will bring with him. He will have two rivers flowing. One clearly look like water, and the other river will clearly look like the blazing fire. The Prophet ﷺ does tell us here something. He says, if any one of you sees that, let him choose the river which looks like fire. And then let him close his eyes, lower his head, and drink from it, because it will be actually cool water. So the Dajjal will have illusions. Something that is real water is going to make it look like fire, like boiling fire. And something that is fire is going to make it look like water. The Prophet ﷺ does tell us that if you meet the Dajjal, then you drink from the one that looks like fire, if you truly believe in what the Messenger ﷺ said. If you don't believe in what the Messenger ﷺ said, you're going to judge by the outward appearance, and you're going to drink from the river that looks to you like it's from paradise, but in reality, that will be molten fire. In the hadith of Nawas bin Sam'an about the Dajjal, it is reported that the Sahaba said, O Messenger of Allah, how long will he stay on earth? The Prophet ﷺ said 40 days. One day of these 40 days will be like a year. One day will be like a month. One day like a week, and the rest of the days like our days. Now, when we say a day like a year, of course, how is a day counted? It's counted by the sunrise to sunset. So most likely, that the sun is going to rise on that day, and it's not going to set for a whole year's time. That's why the companions, they asked, are we going to pray during this one day that is as long as a year? Are we going to pray only 5 times? He said, no. Estimate the time and pray whatever prayer you would otherwise pray in a year's time. The companion continues the hadith, and they said, how fast will he travel through earth? The Prophet ﷺ said, like the clouds when they are driven by the wind. He will come to some people and call them to follow him, and they will believe in him and respond to him. Then he will command the sky to rain and the earth to bring forth vegetation. Their cattle will come back to them in the evening with their humps very high and their udders full of milk and their flanks stretched. So these people will follow him, and he will give them the worldly benefit, as we said. Then he will come to another people and will call them, but they will reject him. These people will be strong in faith. So he will leave them, and they will be stricken with famine, with none of their wealth in their hands. Just like what's happening today, whatever and whoever obeys the one world order is going to be given loans, interest-based loans, is going to be given money, is going to be given safe haven. And the ones that don't follow the leader of evil, the United States of America, then they're going to put sanctions on him, they're going to starve him, they're going to kill the kids in that country like they did in Iraq and they did in Somalia. Why? Because they don't follow this one world order. This is exactly what Dajjal is going to do. The Dajjal is going to come, call some people, they will not follow him, so he will leave them, and they will be stricken with famine, none of their wealth in their hands, and he will pass by ruins. And he will say to these ruins, that means broken edifices that used to exist before, he's going to tell these edifices, bring forth your treasure. And the treasure will follow him like a swarm of bees. Because people, obviously, they are so hungry for treasures, for gold, for other types of precious stones. So obviously when they see that, they will believe that he is their Lord. Similarly today, the ones that are leaders in the world are ones that have money, that can afford to give big advertisements so that people can vote for them, even though they don't deserve to even be leaders of their own households, but they become leaders of huge nations. Why? Because they have money. People nowadays, they judge leadership with money. If you have money, they make you lead. And this is obviously opposite from the truth and opposite from what is logical, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does say in the Quran that when the prophet of the Jews told them that Allah will send them will send them Talut, King Saul, as their king, they said, how can he be a king and we are more deserving of being kings than him, and he does not have enough money. He does not have enough money, because to them, to those Jews, if you have money, then you can lead. And this is the world that we live in today. This is the world led by the Jews. If you have money, then you can become president, you can lead the people, even if you are cheating, even if you are committing zina, even if you are killing people, it doesn't matter. As long as you have money, then you deserve to be a leader. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that this is not the criteria for a country to have a leader. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the criteria to be a leader is to have enough knowledge and enough bodily strength. Okay? So we have to put all these things together so that we can understand what is happening around us in the world. So the Dajjal, he will tell the treasures, come, and the treasures will follow him like swarms of bees. Then he will call a man who is brimming with youth. This man is going to be a believer, is going to come out of Medina, and he's going to tell the Dajjal that he does not believe in him, that the Dajjal is the one that the Prophet ﷺ told us about. So he's going to cause an illusion that he's going to strike this young man with a sword and cut him in two pieces. Then he will walk between these two pieces, as people can see. As according to the hadith, then he will put the pieces apart from one another, the two pieces of this young boy's body, the distance of an archer from his target. That means very far away, the two pieces. Then he will call this young man back, and the young man will come forward smiling with his face shining. So he's going to act as if he killed this person and brought it back to life, so that people can believe in him. However, all this is an illusion. أقول ما تسمعون واستغفر الله إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Alhamdulillah wa kafa wa salamun ala ibadihi alladhina istafa, amma ba'd. Al-Bukhari narrated from Abu Sa'id al-Khudri that this man from the Dajjal will be one of the best people who will go out to the Dajjal from the city of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this young man will say to the Dajjal, I bear witness that you are the Dajjal about whom the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam spoke. The Dajjal will say to the people, what do you think? If I kill this man, then bring him back to life, will you have any doubts? That means, will you have any doubts that I am your Lord? They will say, no, of course, because only Allah can bring back the dead. So the Dajjal will kill him, then bring him back to life. Then this young believing man will say, by Allah, I have never been more sure about you than I am today. That means I truly believe that you are the Dajjal. At this point, the Dajjal will want to kill him, but Allah will not permit him to do that. This was narrated in Al-Bukhari. According to the hadith of Umama al-Bahili, may Allah be pleased with him, the Prophet ﷺ said of the Dajjal, part of his fitna will be that he will say to a Bedouin, do you think that if I resurrect your father and mother for you, that you will testify that I'm your Lord? The Bedouin will say yes, because they say only Allah, because we know that only Allah can bring back the dead. So two devils will appear to this Bedouin in the image of his father and mother, saying to him, oh my son, follow him because he is your Lord. This is the authentic hadith by Al-Albani rahimahullah in Sahih al-Jami'. Protection against the fitna of the Dajjal. The Prophet ﷺ has taught this ummah about that which will protect them against the fitna of the Dajjal. The Prophet ﷺ left us a clear path in this ummah, that no one deviates from this path except the one who is doomed. The Prophet ﷺ did not leave any good thing without pointing it out to this ummah, or any evil thing without warning them against it. Among the things which he ﷺ warned us against was the fitna of the Dajjal, because it is the greatest fitna which the ummah would face until the hour comes. Every prophet warned his ummah against the one-eyed Dajjal, but Muhammad ﷺ was the only prophet who warned his ummah more about him. Allah told him many of the attributes of the Dajjal so that the Prophet ﷺ could warn his ummah. The Dajjal will undoubtedly emerge among this ummah, because it is the last ummah before the day of judgment. And Muhammad ﷺ is the last of the prophets. So we're going to leave it here inshallah until next week. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to save us from all the fitna, the Dajjal or otherwise. أقول ما تسمعون وقوموا إلى صلاتكم.